to another episode of Discussions of Exploration with your host, Sabrina Ben Salmi. And today I'm joined with a very special guest, Rachel Charles. Rachel, I wonder if you can just introduce yourself to my listeners and my viewers.
I am Rachel Charles. I 9 to 5, I work as a senior probation officer, but I took that need to help people out into my coaching role. So I'm a certified life coach. So I own Rachel Charles Online, and that's where I work with people trying to get them out of the life that was prescribed for them and get them living the life that they're designing for themselves.
Oh, that's a beautiful introduction. Thank you very much. I wonder if we can go back in time a little. I wonder if you can share with the listeners and viewers a bit about the story behind the story that happens to be the driving force behind who you are today.
I think I've always wanted to be in a profession, career, live a life where I'm helping people. And growing up, I was always kind of like the friends that would be, trying to fix this and fix that, and, helping people with their problems. And so it just kind of came naturally, I think, where I fell into a profession where I was working with, and still am working with, people who committed different crimes, made mistakes in their lives, and it was about trying to get them to turn things around. And it was just kind of like a natural progression where I just thought, right, I don't just want to work with people who are told to work with me. I wanted to seek out people who wanted that for themselves and were not ordered to do it. So, for me, it was just a kind of like a natural progression to start working with and seeking out people, I think, who felt stuck, people who were, if you're talking about story behind the story, I was brought up in an extremely, very strict religion. And sometimes, when you think to yourself, I want to be able to think for myself, I also want to find people who are in that position as well and want to be able to think for themselves, whether it's a background of maybe, something religious, or maybe coming out of a relationship where things have been difficult. So I've always tried to seek out people who just need that kind of support and help to get to where they want to be, so that they're living a more fulfilled life. So it's kind of always drawn out of, how can I help this person? How can I support this person to get to where they want to be?
Beautiful and very fulfilled answer. So thank you for that. One of the things that comes to mind when you think about you is, what does acceptance mean to you? What parts of you did you have to accept in order to allow you to fully immerse yourself into your life?
Yeah, acceptance is a big one. And it's funny because when I was thinking of that earlier, it kind of brought me back to when I was in school. There was this guy. Sorry, I always have to bring in a story. There was this guy in school that whenever someone would say something to him like, "Oh, are you doing this or are you doing that?" He and this is in the Caribbean, so he would say, "I was born alone, you know." And we would say, and in my little brain, you kind of, okay, so he's not a twin. Yes, he was born alone. And you kind of knew what he meant. I have my own mind. But the deeper levels to that was, I don't have to do what you're telling me to do. I know me. I don't have to follow the crowd. And when it comes to that acceptance, is, knowing that we have to be connected, and we are connected, but we're kind of in this alone, and we have to be true to ourselves. So, when it comes to acceptance, it's just being true to you, knowing that, sorry, another story is coming again, because what I can think of is...
Don't apologize, just share this.
Everything I talk of, it's always a parable and a story. It's just like, you're going to a party with friends, and even though you're going with a bunch of friends, you're still on your own. You get dressed and it's like, right, I'm going to meet my mates at the train station, and some of you might be at the train station, some of you, and you'll get there and you're on the train traveling. It might be that there's another friend who comes on the train later on, and it's like, yeah, we're in carriage 4, come on, that kind of thing. And then you get there may be some friends who don't come to the party as well, and it's just you guys, and then you make your journey back, and then at the end of the day you're alone at home, and you get back and it was a brilliant day. But it's just that accepting of, I've done it, I'm me, you know. And it's just that being happy and holding yourself, in terms of when you can do that and just know that you're okay. For me, that's the most important thing when it comes to acceptance, knowing your worth, knowing you're okay, and doing the things that make you okay.
Beautiful. Do you know, please don't apologize for your stories. Your stories are so on point. I love the boy that I was born on my own, you know. I was just thinking of the accent. I love that. But you know, I love how stories teach. And I love that when we listen to stories, we take what resonant with for us. And I love the analogy you gave around being on the train. You know, some friends will be there, some friends will get off early, some will be there to the end of the journey. So there's lots of different messages, and it's such a beautiful metaphor. So don't apologize.
And you take in things and with the people, and that's how you yourself evolve as well. Because, you know, you might be sitting on the train with your friends, but there's other people that jump on the train, and you might see your friend like, look at him. Or there might be someone who joins in the conversation and you can have a laugh, and people will get on and get off. And that's just kind of like life, you know, the reason, the season, the lifetime. People will get on, they'll get off, they might follow you along, but through it all, you still have you, and you take the pieces that you can from all of the people around you, but you still just have to be whole. And sometimes that's the hardest part as well, is knowing which bits to take, which bits, and what makes you, which is why as well I say mirror work is so important. There were times when I was going through just some crazy bits of my life, and I knew things weren't right because I couldn't look myself in the eye. And, you know, and I knew I was okay when I could. And it's not to say I couldn't, you know, I had the mirror, I was getting dressed every day, I'm putting on lipstick, I would call it war paint, I'm going to work. You put on the war paint, I'm ready, I'm going, you know. But, and I'm looking at myself, getting myself dressed, but I wasn't looking at myself. I couldn't look myself in the eye. And that's when I knew things had to change, because I wasn't accepting what was happening for me and with me. And I knew I made a turning point at one point when I looked in the mirror and I smiled, and I was like, whoa, hold on. And that's when you know, and that's, for me, sometimes that's your gauge as to where you know, and like knowing your worth, knowing you're good enough, knowing you're enough. And for me, it's just, if I can't look at myself, I know that thing has to change. Yeah. And from then, it's just like, it's always been like that. If I can look in the mirror and it's like, you're right, girl, you know, then I know I'm okay. But yeah, it's accepting.
That is such a beautiful and artistic response to the question. Like, that has really zen me out, if I be honest. That's such a beautiful way, because, you know, you called upon the listeners and viewers to really see themselves. You know, listeners and viewers, this is not a moment for you to hide. I love when you said, look at yourself in the mirror. If you're not able to look at yourself in the mirror, you know you're not facing up. And are you in a routine of just putting on the war paint, the way Rachel said? Like, are you just doing that routinely as a habitual action? Just putting on.
And it's that, how are you? And you perfect the, I'm fine, I'm good. And, you know, how many times it's just an automatic response. But when you're alone and you have to look in the mirror, you can't say I'm fine, because you know, and that girl looking back at you is just like, you're not okay. Wow. You're not fine. And you cut that whole, the automatic, I'm good, I'm fine, how are you? You can't do that to yourself. And that's why that's just the basic gauge of how you are, because you can't lie to yourself.
That's beautiful. Acceptance. I will say it, listeners and viewers, Rachel is sharing some serious golden nuggets around acceptance. Have you accepted yourself fully? Like, really and truly, what's the relationship that you currently have with yourself? So Rachel's not saying that she couldn't look in the mirror. She was there, but not entirely. And the moment she knew she was there is when she started to interact with that person that she loved and cared about so much, and said, "You're all right." I love that when he said that. Just looked at her and gave her a smile. That is so deeply profound. That's really beautiful. I guess that really leads me on to the thought process of, what are the biggest lessons that you learned when you started to go on that journey of self-acceptance?
I think it's not losing yourself. And it sounds kind of cliche when you're saying like not losing yourself, but there's, in terms of acceptance, you have to accept yourself, but for many of us, a big part is having other people accept us. And as a child, you live for the well done, that's really good, and it's great. You have to encourage children, but sometimes we carry that too much into adulthood. And so even as adults, we're still waiting for the manager to say well done, and rather than taking the initiative and just doing what you need to do. But the lessons is just not looking for somebody else to pat you on the back, and doing it yourself. I was watching a video the other day, and it's a YouTuber, absolutely love her, and she went through a hell of a patch last year. And one of her most recent videos, she was talking about how she bought herself a house because she had to move out of the marital home because that was just done now. And she bought herself a home, and she said, "Oh, I'm so proud of myself. Can I say that?" And I was just like, girl, yes. I'm thinking like, if I could get through the screen, it was like, celebrate yourself. Yes, you can say that, because it's a triumph. And a lot of the times we're looking for other people, and we don't celebrate. And I know that's something that we've spoken about as well. We don't always celebrate. We're looking for somebody else to say, yes, you have permission now to say well done. But yeah, one of the lessons that I've learned is, start celebrating yourself, not looking for somebody else to say it's okay. There's the other person who says, don't seek permission, better to seek forgiveness after. You have to do what makes you feel right. And when it's coming from a good place, when your intentions are pure, it's all good, because at the end of the day, you have to be happy. And when you're doing it from a really good place, then it will permeate, and it will touch the other people around you, and it will be fine. So I think one of the main lessons for me is looking at what fills me up, what makes me happy, what do I need to do to show up and go out there and do it. How is what am I going to be doing? How is that going to touch somebody else? And then, how do we all, how can we all celebrate? How do we all benefit from this? Because when you're okay, then you push that out to the other people around you as well.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Really artistically spoken, may I say. Listeners and viewers, do you celebrate all wins? Are you the kind of person just looking for that external validation, and when you don't get it, it's sort of like flatline? It doesn't feel like it's good enough, and you're constantly trying to push the boundaries so someone can acknowledge you. And managers, relationships, whoever it is for you, really connect with what Rachel's saying, because I think you're so on point, Rachel. I guess the thing that started to permeate in my mind when I was listening to you is that, what did you have to learn to unlearn? Because like you said, when we're young, we're used to someone coming along and saying you're doing good. That lets you know that you're on the right path, so to speak. So what parts of those disempowering belief systems did you have to release? And what are the new ones that you had to reintegrate, reinsert, and plant the seed for?
I think it's the not worrying what people think, because they are just as scared as you are as well. And sometimes you look at someone and you think, oh wow, she's got it all together, but then you don't realize that they're going through the same kind of fear as you are. They're better at masking it, or better at just not even masking. They're better at just holding it at bay than you are. And or there may be other things that they're not putting out there because they too are scared. So it's the not waiting for permission, just thinking, right, I don't have to wait for somebody else to applaud me or open the door for me. You can go out there and just do it yourself.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Wow, that is so awesome. You know what I love with regards to what you just shared is the awareness of not everyone's having a perfect life. The grass is not always green on the other side.
Don't
Chance.
know how much money they're spending on fertilizer, so you know. You don't know what's going on over there. It could be spray paint. You don't know.
You're going to behave at the start of this. That make me laugh. How much they're spending on fertilizing. Oh God, that's so funny.
Might not even be GMO. You never know. You know? You don't know. You don't know.
Listeners and viewers, you're getting the raw, uncut version of this. I'm leaving this in here. There's going to be no deleting of this.
You know what? I was gonna be. I thought I'd be prim and proper, and I thought, no, I'm just gonna be me. So.
But that's, you see, that's, I think it's such a beauty, and that's why it's making me laugh so much. There's so much beauty in what you just shared. It's just that you might be someone that is very open about speaking about your business, and you know, someone else all for wearing your, I can't even speak, wearing your heart on your sleeves, and they just keep their lives very private, and they just might have different coping mechanisms to you. But the truth is, we all have our own issues that we have to overcome. Yeah. So we often hold ourselves back with the assumption that, oh wow, I'm not as good as that. Oh wow, I can't deal with that. Oh wow, I couldn't do this. And actually we don't even know. And the chances are, the moment you start speaking, you can add so much to their lives just as much as you can add to yours. So,
and you've got to find the people to speak to as well, because sometimes when we think, oh, we have to speak, oh, I'm going to speak to everybody, but you know, there's some people, because of their own insecurities, they will hold you back. And their own insecurity, because they know that it's not something for them, or they're scared themselves, they'll think, well, you know, what makes you think that you can go out there and do that? I'm gonna, and sometimes it is for the wrong reasons, because they think, well, why should she do that? But a lot of the times it's just because they're scared themselves, and that's their way of trying to protect you, that they think, oh, I don't think you should. And you kind of have to mentally sift through those people and think, right, if I've got this thing, a lot of the time, if you look behind me, the amount of notebooks that I've just got with just stuff in there, because it's just like, who do I tell these things to? First of all, just get it out of my head and put it on paper. And then I choose, this friend supports me. I do lots of different things. So I think, well, this friend supports me with this. And it's not because she always says yes to everything. I know that if I tell her this, she will give me a truthful answer as to, I think that's a good idea, or try that, or, oh, are you sure? But you have to know who you're sharing your stuff with, because some people will put a damper on things. And you know, it could be a great reason. You could just tweak it if you needed to, but because they've put a damper on it, it just kills everything. So just because, you know, you want to get something out there doesn't mean that you just have to tell everybody. Know who you're sharing things with, because you know, you will have that one person or a handful of people that you will share things with, and they will give you, even though they know it's like sitting on that roller coaster ride and you just think, am I going to make it to the end, you know, and be okay? But they'll be like, listen, just strap in, you got this. And those are the people that you need in your corner.
wow.
So it's not everyone, because you'll get so many conflicting things. Yeah, go for it. You know, don't mind the consequences. Oh, I don't think that's right. You just have to have that core set of people as well that are in your corner supporting you. And then you go out there and share, and you feel, you know, uplifted and supported to be able to share what you're doing.
Listeners and viewers, all I can say is that Rachel is showering you with an abundance of truth bombs. I cannot agree with you enough. Like, I'm literally having to contain myself while you were talking, because you're talking about contextual relationships. You see, when you have the wisdom to understand the complexity or the simplicity of contextual relationships, that's the difference that makes the difference. Rachel's saying to you to know who you share what with, to what extent. Rachel's saying to you to take it at least from your mind and put it down onto paper, because it's not everything that everyone needs to know. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is that we go from not speaking and then go straight to the other side of the Richter scale, and we start speaking to everyone, and then we go, okay, it doesn't work, so we go back to not speaking. It's not, it's finding balance. It's like, who are those friends that you can speak to about your personal life? Who are those friends you can speak to about business? textual
Yeah.
relationship, and finding out like what is the energy you're getting off of all these different people, because life will always give us feedback. I love every essence of what you've actually shared with the listeners and viewers, because I'm constantly speaking to this about every person I meet. I even speak to my children about it. When we have the wisdom to actually discern our contextual relationships in our life, that's the difference that makes the difference. It's a game changer. Because it's not about going to the person that every time you go there, they shut down your dream. It's not about going to that person that always says yes. It's about contextually, if I want some truth, just exactly the way you've just put it, is that this friend's going to tell me exactly what she thinks, honestly. She's going to give me the feedback that is honest. See, there's no point you keep telling me, yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. And you're not really giving me anything. And I'm saying, you know, how can I tweak that? No, it's perfect. Where is the feedback from me? Where can I expand? How can I get better? And listeners and viewers, I think if you really take heed, take note, pause, take notes down, rewind it, listen to it again, because what Rachel is saying could be a massive shift that can take place in your life if you're willing to plant the seed. You see, there's no point just listening. They say knowledge is power. I don't believe that. I think knowledge is power with the essence of action. Just like vitamin C, you don't take vitamin C without vitamin D, is the absorption. So through the absorption of what Rachel's saying and then the application of, that's when things are going to start changing in your life. Rachel, I'm really touched by what you said. Like, that has really, really resonated at such a deep level. And I think the interesting thing is I've been wanting to talk about this in so many different ways, and you just like put it out there. And I think it's so important. Contextual relationships is the holy grail, I think, in life. And when we understand that dynamics, rather than saying, okay, that person's no good and that person's not this, contextually, in what essence do you like to enjoy them, and how do they actually add value to your life? And if that's all they do, like if a call is best, just interact at that level. If being around them is brilliant, interact at that level. But before you decipher what your contextual relationship is, don't just throw people away, because we're not sure if we're actually using them, interacting with them contextually. Rachel, is there anything you wanted to add before we move on?
No, it's just, you know, and what you were just saying about how you're interacting with people as well. Everybody is different, and there's just so many different ways. Some people, you might get so much from them from a text. Some people, you know, that they're, you know, if you call them, you're going to get so much upliftment from a phone call. Other people, you know, there's lots of different ways, and it doesn't mean you wouldn't treat all of your children the same, because everybody, you know, reacts in different ways. But you have to get things from the different people with in the capacity that they're able to give it in as well, in the same way that you would give to your friends in different ways. Because, you know, for some friends it might be the 2 love hearts in a text that does it for them that day. For another friend it might be a certain type of music that, you know, this gets them, you know. So in the same way that you would go to your different friends, acquaintances, family members, your partner, whoever it is, for the different areas of your life that need filling up at different times and in different ways.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, that really is leading me to think about what you just said. For me, all of what you said was amazing, but what dropped into my mind is that you're really calling upon the listeners and viewers to take responsibility for their relationships. I love that, because I think far too often we go, okay, they're not good, they're not helping me, they're so negative, they're so this. And you said, how do you interact with them? And I really, really love that. And you also added the essence that really got me inspired with regards to we interact with our children differently. So why do we hold people in these kind of cookie cut shapes? I love that, because it really brings me to the thought process of what is your love language, but not only what's your love language, what's your communication and relationship language? Because we sometimes forget that relationships isn't about what you can give me, it's how we can serve each other. And sometimes in relationships, it's like, you're not giving me what I want and you're not showing what I want. But like Rachel said to you, how do you interact with that relationship?
It's a two-way street.
Exactly. And I think it's so amazing what you said. I think listeners and viewers with this talk, if you're really open to being vulnerable, but first and foremost, honest and accept, you know, Rachel's talking about acceptance. If you have acceptance around what Rachel's actually inviting you to take on board, I think you'll see a huge shift within your life that hasn't showed up until this point. Because what you're talking about is so significant, but how many people really question themselves? Like, how can I be a better friend to X? How can I shift the way I communicate with my partner, my family, my children? Because when we put the I instead of they're not this, because sometimes it's a case of just owning it. Okay, if I can just tidy up what I need to take responsibility for, and then they've done what they need to, and then I've visited the contextual interaction, then I can at least say, okay, maybe this isn't working. But until we do all variations, we don't know if we're just being honest with ourselves and thinking, I expect you to be me, and if you don't do what I do, you're no good. Like, because I'm the mirror, you know, like I need to, I'm the marker. And if you're not like me, like you've got issues. I think you need counseling. I think you need to go to yourself. I hear that so much in relationships, is like, you need to be like me. Well, my answer to that is that it's okay. You can be like you. And if you being in resonance with me takes you out of being who you truly are, then we have a problem. But if us being in resonance is a choice that we both make, let's play together. So I really, thank you so much.
Yeah. And we can't expect people to be like us, because how many times have we turned around and said, oh, what have I done that for? Why did you know? So if we are sometimes in conflict and turmoil with ourselves, then what makes us think that everybody else needs it? The world would be boring, you know. And what's happening in the world today as well is, I find, very disturbing. We have to isolate for whatever reasons, but the social distancing is, I just find, something that you just think, it's breaking down relationships. It's, you know, it's putting us in a position where we're not trusting anyone, not only because you can't see people's faces, you're not interacting the way that you used to, you're wary of anybody and everybody that comes close to you. We're in a society where we hardly even say hello to each other anymore, and now it's even worse. And then, you know, when you look at, even, it's pitting people against each other as well, because there's things that I've seen floating around Facebook saying, this is the time when you're going to know who your friends and family are. And it's just like, what are they going through? What are you going through? Stop projecting, you know, yourself onto other people. No, they haven't picked up the phone and called you, but you have no idea how they're coping with this. And it might be that they just need to be silent. They just need to be alone in their own space. You know, sometimes I call it my little protective bubble, because I'm at work sometimes and things are going on at work, and they're like, why are you still smiling? I'm like, because ain't nothing coming in here. It's reflecting, it's bouncing off. It's just
I love this. Rachel, you just keep going in. You know what I love? What you just said. Oh my God, I'm so excited that you touched on this. It's like you've been in my thoughts, darling. Why is it that the one who's saying they haven't called are also the same person that haven't made the call also?
Yeah, it's like the number dropped out of their phone too. It's just
I love that, because, you know, listeners and viewers, I think Rachel's really giving you an opportunity to just surrender to the process and saying, you know, if I've not heard from someone, chances are they just need a call from me. Even what Rachel said, a text, just two.
And if the thought popped into your head, it's just, are you okay? Just checking in. Are you okay? Or hope you, and the are you, and okay, so you could say, are you okay? And you might be in that space where, you know what, I'm not in a mood for this whole long conversation. Just checking in. Hope you're okay. The are you okay invites a lot more of an interaction that you may not be in a space to have, but it's just like, just hoping you're okay. And that way you're putting onto them that you're in my thoughts, I hope you're okay. And there's no like big compulsion for them to come back with anything. It's just, all it will be like, yep, hope you are too. And that's it. But you've kept that connection going, rather than, she hasn't called me, and you just think, why?
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for the message of connection, because I definitely agree with you. That's been one of my concerns, and I started to look at some of the slogans: 6 feet apart or 6 feet under. And I'm thinking, are they talking about dying from contracting something? Are they talking about the death of mankind through the lack of connection? Listeners, viewers, take heed. Really take heed, because if we used to live by neighbours that never used to talk, imagine what things are going to be like if we maintain the current status quo. And I think
unity is strength, and we're not, you know, I was talking earlier about us being individual, and at the end we always have our own, but we are social beings, and to be divided in that way is, it is a literal death to our social existence. And if you think of the children who are growing up now, where you can't really wave at the person next to you, you can't, you know, and they're growing up in a world where they're wary of everybody around us. I can only imagine what the next generation is going to be like, because this is what they're born into, where do not, you know, it's bad enough thinking you can't trust that person because they might nick your wallet, but it's bad enough now where you can't trust this person because they're standing next to you breathing. You know, so yeah, it's really worrying where this is going, and I'm not even sure how we kind of pull it back. I guess we can only keep talking about it, and, you know, getting people to realize that, okay, there is something out there that is dangerous, but you have to maintain maybe there's physical, and I think that the language is very dangerous, because it's the social distancing, and it isn't social distancing at all. If anything, it has to be physical distancing, and even with that, I'm, you know, a little bit concerned, because who says that if my sister comes to visit and I know she's okay, I can't give her a hug? Who says that? You know, so we have to be very very aware of what we're being conditioned to believe.
what you just shared is so deeply profound. I just want to make sure the listeners and viewers caught it. Rachel's pointing to you to be very mindful of the language that's being used. So it wasn't saying not to have contact. It actually said social distancing. I think that's so deeply profound, because remember, we can socialize by having eye contact. We can socialize by just smiling at each other, but that social distancing has been told not to happen. Yeah. So, you know, we really, and I love, you know, throughout this conversation, Rachel's called upon you, listeners and viewers, to take responsibility for your relationships contextually. If you're honoring social distance, we're thinking about interaction. Touching each other is nothing to do with socializing. If you really think about it, when I go to a social networking, I don't go and say, hi guys, and I go all over them. It's a greet. You know, we greet each other, we smile at each other, and we share information. Now, how on earth will social interaction be an issue?
Yeah.
I wonder what's really under threat. That's
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is a play on the word. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Because it could have just said refrain from contact, right?
Yeah.
But it went very, very deep to say social distancing. We are social creatures, but that's the one thing we are told not to do. Very interesting.
And social media is not face to face. I mean, you're, you know, because when you think about that, and everything is, you know, social media, are you on Facebook, are you this and that, and you just think you've used that same word for something that we do every day. It's subliminal conditioning. It's, you know, because if you think about it, that is not something where I'm holding your hand every day, but you have to maintain your distance. And yeah, it's disturbing. So I mean, what I keep saying, without going into too much, because there's people that are dealing with what's happening at the moment in many different ways, but what we're experiencing right now is not really the issue. It's what is coming after that is going to be the real issue, and I'm gonna leave it there.
Wow, wow. You know what? There's some food for thought. Listeners and viewers, Rachel will be leaving some contact details at the end. Get in touch, because I'm itching to say more, but I am actually going to leave it there. I'm going to honor what you've said. I love what you've just left. There's a little salt, a little seed in. And I'm going to ask you to actually leave a final departing message for our listeners and viewers. It's been amazing conversing with you, but I love what you've just done. And I would love you to just leave a departing message around acceptance or whatever else is coming up in your mind that you'd like to share.
My tagline, my strap line that I've been just repeating over in my head for the longest while is live the life you design rather than the one prescribed. And there's so many what do you call it, like conditions or expectations that are put on us from birth, and it's about looking at those and taking a good look in the mirror and looking at what is it I need, what do I as an individual need. And I'd say if there's one thing that we have to start doing is looking at what is it that makes me, what is it that fills me up, and that's what we need to start doing. So in terms of a takeaway, I'd say, just start living a more, again, another cliche, but a fulfilled life. Start, if when you look forward in a couple of years' time, we might be sitting in that rocking chair and we're thinking back onto our lives, and these are the years that we're going to be looking back on. So what are we doing today that will give us those brilliant memories when we're sitting in that rocking chair and we go back to, oh, this is what was happening in 2020 or 2019 or 2015, 2022, what is it that I was doing? So make these days count rather than waiting until you get there and, and you're rocking, what if I should have. Life is way too short for that, because I look at myself at my age now and I think, boy, when my parents were this age, I thought they had it all together, and I'm thinking, well, there's some things that I'm still figuring out, so clearly they didn't have it all together either. So these are the days where we have to make them count, so that live a life of no regrets. There are going to be things that we think, oh, could have done that differently, but in terms of major regrets and living a life that somebody else has enforced on you, no, too short.
What a beautiful message. Rachel, thank you for joining us in this space. Listeners and viewers, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. One of my biggest takeaways where Rachel's talking about just acceptance and connection and socializing, for me, is that you said that we are individual but also part of a bigger picture, and it really made me think about a puzzle piece, is that part is in the whole and the whole is in the part, is that in that jigsaw puzzle you are an individual but you interconnect with everyone else. And how about we just leave that as something to gather up some thoughts in your mind and just consider how you can remain connected but also still own who you are. What a beautiful message.
You've just put something in my head now with the jigsaw piece, because I'm and it's funny because someone spoke about jigsaw pieces the other day, and we were saying that sometimes there's that piece that it doesn't fit, but you can kind of push it in there and it will fit. But ultimately it makes that piece worthless because it breaks off the edges, and when you try and put it in where it needs to go, you've got kind of like that squashy little sides there. So we can't, you can't conform to places where you're not supposed to be, and we're not meant to be like that. We're individuals. We have our own pieces, we have our own places where we can literally just like plant our feet, and that's where we belong.
Love it. Oh. Love it. How can the listeners and viewers get in touch with you? Is there a website, social media that you can share?
I do have a website. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. So if you'd like to have a chat with me, if you'd like to work with me, I am on Rachel Charles Online on both Facebook and Instagram, or you can email me at rachel@rachelcharlesonline.com.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for joining us, and I wish you continued health.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.